felt this was a really easy way to start this video off. So hey everybody, Talk here. And as is obvious, we are talking about knife spears, or more particularly today, a knife javelin. And as you can see, as I'm sitting here attempting to straighten this out on some level, I may be a little smarter about this. There we go. Give me something to grip onto. These have some pretty serious flaws. I can't get that one off. Like that. I'll soak this in water. There's dirt and junk in there. But you just saw it. While it will happily go through, let's make a convenient winter today, what is in essence just a cheap sweatshirt. This is literally a cheap Walmart sweatshirt. It's nothing fancy, it's just full of hay. It provides absolutely zero protection from this. This is a similarly cheap Walmart chef's knife. And you can even see it's covered in crap and junk. It's from dirt and whatnot as it gets stuck in here. Now, I did a video on these a while ago. I think over a year at this point. And these are slightly improved versions of that. As you can tell here, it sits farther in here and I'm using different tape. I was using, I believe, Gorilla Tape initially. I don't remember what this type is, but this is far more strengthened, and there's electrical tape under it. It holds better. I'm not calling this a Mark II, I'm calling this a Mark 1.5. I might not even go that far. Wind, could you stop, please? A little bit? Whatever. I hope it doesn't translate to the audio. Still haven't gotten the lapel mic. I need to get on that, but neither here nor there. These, and I mean, I am going to call them knife spears despite them being a javelin because I don't think he calls things that are this short spears, and honestly, you're probably going to throw them more. Now, you can fight with it. Doesn't stop me from doing this. I would get a shield, though, unless, you're doing something like this, where you're, holding a handful of them like this. But why would you make this? Well, make nice holes. I hope you can kind of see this. There's a pretty, it's like a 2-finger width hole in that shirt. And from how wide this blade is, as you can see here, it's very thin, obviously. It's exceedingly thin, but it's very wide, as in tall, like this way. And that's going to leave a fairly sizable hole in some like. And those are easy to get. Like, they're cheap. They were like $3, $3 or $4 at Walmart. They were cheap as heck. You can go anywhere else and get them. This is just a dowel I got off a hardware store. And then it's nothing more than a wood shim holding the knife in there. I mean, I might actually be able to fix this right now by just sliding this in there, and then if I can get the... don't want to push this too much. But let's just see if I can slide the wood shim in there. And the answer is yes. I can, in fact, just slide the wood shim in there and then just stick it in there. Now, this one's not all that great because this one's kind of sticking out too far. But all it is a dowel. Why am I? Just show it to you. It's just a dowel with a hole slit in it with a bandsaw, in my instance. Though you could use a hand hacksaw if you so chose. I'm going to sheath these. Proper knife safety here. Does it go this way? Yes, it does. It's just a bandsaw or a hand hacksaw. It's nothing fancy. And then it's just some wood shims. This is actually a really good example here. I just crammed. Come on. Come on. Don't be like that. There we go. Okay, as you can see, it is nothing more than wood shims, a knife, and some duct tape. Now, these are not the ideal knives for this. I would actually recommend the kind that you can see the tang all the way through it, and then you just take the handle scales off and then slide it in to a dowel, because... Is this my broken one? That's not my broken one. This is my broken one. Here. Because that's all that this thing's attached with. This is not a tang, this is a hook. And it's meant to have a whole plastic thing attached to the bottom of it. Which is not ideal, but it does work. It's just that when it hits the ground, it will fold over and cut through the tape and bend and whatnot. So if you have a full tang one, you can do something a little nicer For instance, you can have a lot of tape around there, and now the tang's catching, and that doesn't have an edge, so that won't cut through the tape. Shouldn't. Especially if you're using something like duct tape, or Gorilla tape, or electrical tape. But honestly, the nice part about that one is the handle scales will already have holes in it. So you could just run a screw through there, you know, up here. Just have 2 screws, or bolts, or nails. I mean, it doesn't have to be that fancy. Nails might break this, but you get what I mean. I mean, you can just use little fine nails. Just gotta hold it. And then just sort of pin it in there, and then just fold them over, or snip them off. And then it will be a little more firmly attached, and then run some tape around it to make sure it really, you know, all the wood all holds together. Beyond that, there's a lot of other ways to do it. Those are the easy ones. You could get a nice pipe. You could run the blade in there, and if it's thin enough, you know, we're using like a thinner steak knife, not a bigger chef's knife now, so we're talking like a 2-finger width knife. You can put a pipe through there that's, as long as the knife is no wider than the dowel you're putting it in, slide the pipe over it, and then you could effectively fasten it around that by kind of just shoving it in there. Not probably the most ideal, but it works. And then, of course, there's the classic, just glue it in there and then wrap some tape around it. That way works too. If you've got some flexible metal, like sheet metal or something, you could bend that around by heating that up and then just sort of bending it and then letting it solidify around that. There's a lot of ways to make something this simple. And I mean, I made originally 5 of these. Currently, I only have 2 that are now functional because the other ones keep breaking. Because they keep getting in the ground and ripping out. I just never get around to fixing them. Took me about a half an hour, 45 minutes. I don't know. I think I say it in the original video, it wasn't more than an hour. This was really quick. And most of my time was spent figuring out how to get it to cut right, you know? How wide do I need it? Wind, can you knock it off? Again, I'm really hoping this isn't utterly ruining the audio. And it probably is. I just can't tell because it doesn't seem that bad to me. Anyway, these are really easy to make. They're made out of plentiful stuff. You literally just need a stick. You need a stick, a nice, it doesn't even need a straight stick. This is not my, where's the bent one? Is this one bent? Yeah, this one's kind of bent. This one's got a hook to it. Doesn't matter, still flies fine. More or less. They don't need to be straight, they just need to be reasonably straight. They need to be reasonably durable. Because you don't care if it snaps. Oh, it snapped. Go get a different stick. The knives are plentiful. You can use any cheap, crappy knife you can get your hands on, so long as you can take the handle off of it. And if you can't, you could honestly just sort of put an adapter, like a metal pole on the end. I wouldn't want to put too much weight on the end of this because that'll unbalance it. It'll start messing with the weights. Now, obviously, you could fix that by putting weight on the other end, but now we're overcomplicating it. And the whole point of this is they are simple and easy to make. I mean, you can make this with a handsaw. I wouldn't want to, but you could make one with a handsaw. And that's the benefit. You are in a crisis situation. You need a weapon. What do you have? Some sticks, some chef's knives, a bandsaw / hacksaw, and a bunch of duct tape. There are worse things to have. I mean, let's put it this way. Your options are have something that's this long, or have something that's this long. I think you know what my answer is here. Again, galaxy brain, you know, hot take. Keep the scary things as far away from you as possible. So, putting the knife on a stick makes it so things are further away from me. This is not ideal length. This is not ideal distances, but it's good enough, and I didn't do anything to this knife. I have done nothing, and it just stabs effortlessly through clothing. Now, this is rather thin, cheap, chintzy polyester clothing, but that's sort of my example because that's what a lot of people are wearing. I mean, you're not often going to run into, I mean, this isn't an actual leather vest, but this is a false leather vest, or pleather if you prefer. But this is probably not going to take that knife hit much better than that. I mean, it will a bit better, but not a ton. I mean, my gloves will because they're made out of more durable leather, but you're also stabbing my hand, which is a very different problem. Basically, anything you're fighting, I don't expect to have much thicker than that on until you get into like someone wearing like actual armor, like they've actually put on like 4 or 5 layers of sweatshirt. And I will be testing that at some point. That will be one of my test mediums. I'll probably make some scarecrows and just layer on several shirts and just see how many it takes to stop one of these, because I'm kind of curious. Might be a lot. And they're cheap, so I don't actually care if I beat the crap on them because they last for a while. But the point is, this will take on anything you need to take it on. And let's not even go into a combat situation. Okay, you are in, again, crisis mode. You need to get food. This will get you a fish. I mean, this is not an ideal fishing harpoon. Just straight up, this is not what you want to be fishing with because it's straight. There's nothing to hook it. Now, there's obviously things you could do to ameliorate this. You could honestly just stick like a nail up here. Like, there's other things you could do. If you get access to a welder or something else, you know, you could actually get like a strip of metal that kind of comes up like this. Like, just literally a flat piece of metal here, and then just bend it a bit so it kind of pokes up like this, and then you kind of have a fork. Again, it's not going to be great, but that's the whole point here. This is making do with what you have. You can hunt with this. I mean, if there was a squirrel on that tree, and the tree is technically off camera, but there's a tree like 20 feet away from me, you can throw this that far. Now, I don't think I'm going to hit anything, but I got a feeling if this is what you got to hunt with, you're going to get real good with this really quick. I mean, you could theoretically get rabbits. I would use snares for rabbits personally, but I mean, you could, nothing's stopping you from using this for hunting smaller animals. Raccoons, possums, I mean, a ferret, wild weasels. I wouldn't necessarily want to be eating those, but, you know, rabbits are probably not the ideal thing, but, you know, groundhogs, prairie dogs, any large rodent, ideal for this. Could you go after a deer? Sure, but good luck with that. Turkey? That's a little more ideal. Any sort of ground nesting bird? Yes. Bet you could get a pheasant with this if you catch it before it takes off. Even if it does take off, if you're a good enough shot, you can probably hit it. I don't think I'm that good of a shot. But again, it's the apocalypse. You better get good at it. And again, fish. Good with fish. So this could turn into a very nice tool. Even if you are using a better weapon, like a gun or something. Well, nothing stopping you from taking this. I mean, this is very light. This weighs like nothing. You know, I could see, you know, having 2 or 3 of these, and you just kind of have them sit in your backpack like this, if they're not your main weapon. Because if they're not your main weapon, well, they can just sit here, and then when you go hunting, you just pull them out of your backpack, put them in hand like this, take one in hand, and then just go take a walk. Or, I guess like this, and then when you see the target, you can flip it around. And yeah, there's a reason you hold it like this, because then when you can take it, and you throw it, you transfer it to hand like that instantly. That is actually why they hold them upside down. At least that's what I found. You could hold it like this in this, and then do that, but that's just more hand motion. Just hold it like this like a sane person. So, how do I rate this? Well, it works. It worked fairly well, actually. I want to get some more in-depth targets, like a, you know, a proper human analog target, and see how well just throwing that works, because I'm not sure how well that's gonna go. I don't know how deep it's gonna actually get into a target, so I have to figure out what to do with that one. I don't really want to use ballistics gel, because ballistics gel is optimized primarily for bullets, clearly. That's why it's called ballistics gel. It doesn't necessarily act the proper way muscle does when being hit by a melee weapon, because if you hit muscle, it pulls itself apart. Ballistics gel doesn't do that. It's fine. I mean, it's just a way to compare things, so it's totally functional. It's just, if I'm going to do it, I kind of want to do it and get something a little more workable. I mean, we could just get some good old, get some melons. I mean, apparently that's got reasonable consistency to human skin and muscle. I don't understand that one personally, but apparently it's not that far off. At least, you know, that gets us something to go with, you know, how penetrative it is. Anyway, that's just one of the things I plan on doing later. But in brief, they work. They're nice, they're interesting, they're cheap. Fallout uses them. I do find it a little funny that most of the tribal spears kind of look like this. They literally are just chef knives on sticks. I mean, it made a little more sense in New Vegas with the Sierra Madre, because they had they weren't like a cohesive society. They were crazy monsters that kind of forgot what they were doing and put these really, 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 really sharp knives on sticks so they could throw them or just get some reach. So, you know, they had that much intelligence, but not much else. So they were working with what they had. All the other tribals, I'm a little surprised they didn't have a little more, you know, purpose-built Unless they just kind of went, you know what, this is good enough. And then they like the fact they could just pull the pins out and use it as a knife. I don't know. Maybe that's what it was. Anyway, this is a short one because there's not much to knife spears. They're cheap. They're easy to make. I mean, heck, if you don't have a lot of money and you want to make some javelins and you have enough time on a hacksaw, go for it. I would recommend a bandsaw just because it speeds things up so much. Even a jigsaw on a vise, that'll speed things up considerably. Or one of the multiple other ways I briefly described of how to make one. Anyway, so there you have it, knife spears. We'll be doing some more testing with these as the time goes on. I'll find an appropriate target, and then we'll have fun beating the crap out of that. Or I'll just stack more armor on the Scarecrow there, and we'll see how well that goes. But anyway, I've been Hawk. Hope you all had a good time.